Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Tommy here. So it's gonna be a short video, but in this video, I'm gonna talk about how to get a cinematic look in your videos, whether it's music videos or whatever you shoot, etc., etc. So right now, I'm shooting with a Sony A6300. I've had it for about 2 years now. I'm gonna upgrade soon, but typically what I like to do is I like to go into the settings and I go into the picture profiles. And what I do is I actually wrote it down. So for the gamma, I like to go to, first I go to PP7, my fault. I go to PP7, and then what I do is I go to gamma and I go and I select S-Log2, and for color mode, I select S-Gamut 3.Cine, right? So that's for like the look of the actual picture. So what S-Log does is it gives you a very flat color profile with no contrast. Maybe a little bit, but it's very, very little contrast, as opposed to like a Rec 709 or any of these other profiles. And after that, that's just for the look, like the color profiles. But in terms of like the frame rate, what I do is sometimes I shoot in 4K. Like I don't shoot in 4K like all the time, but like when I do, I'll go into shooting 24 frames per second. Like I don't shoot 30 frames per second because it gives you more of like a TV look. Like if you're watching the news or something, it just gives you like a weird look. But what I do is I always set it to 24 frames per second, especially if I'm shooting music videos. I shoot all my performance shots in 24 frames per second. And I always add like a little blur to it. So instead of shooting, I know the whole like shutter rule, but I don't always shoot at 1/50th of a second in terms of shutter speed. Like what I like to do is I like to set it to 1/40th of a second because it gives me like just a little bit of a blur. It's not that noticeable, but that extra sort of that small little modification, it kind of gives me like a little 80s look. I don't know why, but I like setting the shutter speed at 1/40th of a second. And I also do that with even if I'm shooting 4K or if I'm shooting at HD at 50 megabits per second, I do that too. And for slow motion, if I'm like in a low light situation, I'll shoot at 60 frames per second. And if I'm like in a very well lit area, I'll shoot at 120 frames per second. Now, the A6300 has its drawbacks. It's not really a good camera for low light. You kind of have to work with it, you know, in certain situations. You gotta find certain like environments that'll permit you to shoot with proper exposure. Because once again, this is a crop sensor, and this camera is not really good in low light. And on top of that is, I also like to go into the ISO settings, and I set it to auto. And I know for S-Log, like the lowest base point is about, I believe, 800 ISO, and I set the highest ISO to 6400. And that's just what I do with the camera, right? And outside of the camera, I also use a Tiffin. This right here is the Tiffin Black Pro Mist filter, right? You don't really notice a lot of things. Like you don't really notice the difference. I don't know if you see it right now on the camera, but the best way to tell is I'm gonna use this light, right? And hopefully it doesn't blur out the picture, but I think if you see it, it's kind of like sharp. But I believe if I put the filter on it, you can kind of see it blur a little bit. If I take it off, it's a little sharper. But what this does is, the Pro Mist filter is, it softens the highlights. So when you look at a picture or a video, but I like to call it picture, you'll tend to see that without this filter, it'll be very, very sharp. But when you add this filter, it gives it like a very vintage effect, right? So I'm a big fan of like 80s and 90s movies, and when you look at like the 80s and the 90s, they have like this really soft look. So that's what this does. And I put a few examples on this video, and then you'll see like some of the videos I shot with it. But I shoot this on condition, and what I mean by that is, if I'm shooting like a video and I want it to be a little edgy, and I want it to be very what's that word? I would say edgy, a little rough. I just want to use the filter, like, cause I want like a really sharp look. If I'm shooting like a corporate video, I don't really use filters. Like, I just want it to be very sharp. If I'm shooting an interview, or if I'm shooting a workout video or whatever, like, I just want it to be really sharp. But if I'm shooting like certain videos, like if I'm shooting like a film or a music video, and it has like a very sharp, like a very soft tone to it, then I'll use that Pro Mist. So I don't use it all the time, but I use it when I feel like it's necessary. Like, I don't overdo it. But that's just one thing I use, outside of how I manipulate the camera and things like that. But other than that, second is color grading, right? So what I like to do is, I edit all my stuff in Adobe Premiere and Adobe After Effects. So I tend to use the Lumetri sometimes, but my go-to application for color grading is like a program. It's called Film Convert, and they actually have like two. I'm gonna actually do a separate video for Film Convert, because I think I got to go into more detail as to what they do. But that's like my go-to application for color grading, because that's like the icing on the cake. I mean, I am not gonna get none of those looks in my videos without Film Convert. And their like application is mostly about giving like your videos a real filmic look, but very like vintage. So you got like a couple of like film stocks in there. I'm still kind of upset that they don't have like a film stock that I really want, but I'm gonna get into that in like another video, like pros and cons of like Film Convert. But they got two. They got Film Convert Pro, which is pretty pricey. It's like $100 something. And then they got Film Nitrate. They got Film Convert Nitrate, which I think is a little bit more, but they're good. They're both really, really good. And I use that for like my base color grading. And on top of that, I use a LUT, which is called Lutify. So Lutify is like, they just add like the styles to the videos, you feel me? So those are like what I use to like color grade my videos, to give it that real like film look. So pretty much like that's what I use, that's what I use to get like the kind of look that you see in my videos and things of that nature. But that's just pretty much what I got, you know what I mean? So listen, if you want to see more videos, make sure, let me play that back. So that pretty much concludes this topic for this video. So make sure you guys go and like and subscribe and leave a comment. And if you got any questions, you know what I'm saying, don't be afraid to like leave a comment. But make sure you go follow my Instagram and my Facebook page, and so I could give you guys daily updates. But don't forget, if you're interested in getting those film converts and you're interested in getting those LUTs, I always post all those links down as to what I use, and you could just go ahead and purchase it if you want to support this channel. I got all the Amazon links down there, so make sure you guys go and support your boy. So I'm gonna see y'all next time. All right, peace.